goal for this lesson is to get you off of the real book and to destroy autumn leaves with dominant chords. I hear a lot of people, professional musicians, like good musicians, if autumn leaves gets called, they whine and cry about it. They don't want to play it. It's an old tune. We've been playing forever. It's this, it's that. Yeah, I get that, but to me, the better I know a tune, the more fun I can have with it, the more I can kind of rip it to shreds and put it back together however I want. I think there's something very sort of noble about autumn leaves in its simplicity and in the fact that everybody knows it really well. I think the way to make it really fun is not necessarily to move to other tunes, although of course we can, but just to be more creative with it. Like just to let ourselves have more fun inside of the form. It's such a clean form that it leaves a lot of room for all kinds of strange things. So what I want to do is build off what we did, I think it was last week, when we were sort of destroying the 2-5-1 with dominant chord movement. We're going to do more or less the same thing, but we're going to apply it to autumn leaves. We're going to see how far away from the real book changes we can get by applying dominant chord movement. If you weren't with us in the last lesson from last week about dominant chord movement, it's one of the 4 traditional, super important types of chord movement that we discuss in our Melodic Triads course, Chords for Life. There's a lot of ways chords can move, but there's kind of 4 really big ones that have existed from Bach all the way up to bebop and into modern jazz. And dominant, to me, is one of the most important ones. It's certainly one of those 4. Dominant chord movement is not about finding chord substitutions. It's about understanding how dominants like to move and then using that tension, that harmonic tension they produce and the momentum, the direction they propel us in, using that to create new harmonic pathways through a form. So we're still going to follow the form. We're still going to imply the overall structure of the tune and the chord progression. We're just not going to play it as it is in the real book. The 2 basic ways that dominant chords really like to move is 5-1, right? In autumn leaves, if we're playing it in the key of E minor, we start off with that nice big 2-5-1, A minor, D, G. So that's D, G. That's obviously dominant movement. It's built right into the tune. It's built into all jazz tunes because 5-1 dominant movement is that important. Okay. But there's a second way it can move, which most of you are probably aware of already, the tritone sub. So that's like a flat 2 dominant resolving down a half step. A flat 7 to G major. D7 or A flat 7. And then each of those, part of dominant movement is we can always add a 2 chord. So each of these dominants we could precede with either A minor or E flat minor. Right, E flat minor 7 to A flat 7 to G. That's still dominant movement. Okay. Or we could do A minor, A flat to G. Or we could do A minor to D to G. Or we could do E flat minor to D to G. So I think that was 4 different harmonic pathways through the opening couple measures of Autumn Leaves. We're going to take this idea and see how much we can distort the basic sound of the form. So let's start right here. If you need a PDF, it's just the shape of the basic shelf voicings. I'm not notating any examples out in it because I'm improvising these on the spot. I'm not making these up ahead of time. E flat minor. Okay. Ready? So what was that? Very quickly, E flat minor 7, A flat 7, G major. I think I resolved to C major. I think I skipped the F half diminished and went right to F7. Why? Because F half diminished is just the 2 that we're adding, that we're preceding the 5 with. The 2 is optional, so we can play it or we can leave it out. I left it out, and instead I went to the tritone sub of B, which is F7. So here's the chord progression now of what I just played. We're just going to do a bunch of these examples. Okay, to E minor. And then I remember playing the B flat 7 at the very end, because that's the tritone sub. That would bring me back to A minor. Notice it's also the 5 chord that would land me on E flat minor. Remember I said that we could either start the form on A minor or E flat minor, because they're both the 2 chord to the next dominant. So if I land at the end in measure 8 on B flat 7, that's either the tritone sub that brings me back to A minor to restart, or it's the 5 dominant that brings me to E flat minor to restart. Okay, it's just like one big puzzle. Everything should fit together once you start moving with it. Let's get even wackier with this. How about E flat minor? How about instead of going to G major, right? Right there. What if we just ignore G major and think about where we're headed next? Next we're headed to C major. So we could get to C major with the dominant chord. I'm not substituting a dominant chord in place of G major. I'm just ignoring G major and thinking about where am I headed. I'm not reharmonizing anything. I'm thinking about function and movement and momentum and plot and storytelling. So how do I get to C major? Well, I have 2 options. One is G7. So I can actually play a G7 chord in place of the G major. Or I can use the tritone, D flat 7. They both work. That was G7 to C major. So now, while most people are going to be playing a 2-5-1, A minor, D7, G major, we can play E flat minor, A flat 7, G7 to C major. Of the G major 7, but again, don't think of this as a substitution chord. It's just a tension chord whose whole purpose in life is to get us to C major. Right? To get to the second half of it, the E minor 2-5-1, instead of F sharp minor to B7, 2-5, what if we approach the B7 with its dominant, its tritone sub? Okay, what's a half step above B7? C7. B7, E minor, or we can play C7, F7. I really liked the F7, so let's stick with that. C7, F7, E minor. get somewhere more interesting in a new way? Or how can I get to wherever I'm trying to get to in a more interesting way? What if we don't even start on this idea of a 2-5-1, right? We've destroyed the 2-5-1, we've taken it to a whole different place. But what if we just start targeting, let's just ignore the whole opening section and just target the C major chord. Like, what's a way that we could just do dominant after dominant after dominant, like a domino effect of dominant chords to take us to the measure 4, the C major. D. Can you hear the form in there? I've been toying with it for the last few minutes, so you may or may not be able to hear what's happening here. I'm starting on a G flat dominant. 1, 2. Okay, G flat dominant, just moving down chromatically. These are all tritone subs of each other. Each one of them resolves to the next one, which eventually resolves to C major. And then we can turn C major into C dominant. That goes down to B. Now we have a completely chromatic descending bass line, similar to what we did with blue and green. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Can't remember now. I didn't play E minor here. I played the open E, and then I jumped right to B flat. So what we're really hearing now is G flat, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, C, C, B, E, E, B flat. Where can we go with B flat? We can go down another half step to A minor, or just A. A flat, G. F sharp, G flat, F, E. So now we have, it's funny, I didn't do this on purpose, but this is very similar to our lesson on blue and green, the chromatic comping over blue and green. We're going from this F sharp on the 9th fret, 5th string, chromatically all the way down to the open 6th E string. G7, F sharp 7, to F7, down to E. Okay? You would never get that out of a real book, but it still conveys the form, right? You could hear me, I'm kind of implying the melody, I'm implying the chord progression, but I'm not really playing anything specifically straight from the tune. Certainly not the real book version of it, right? Let me check in with you guys, make sure no one's kind of melting down in the comments section here. Hopefully this is making sense. Gary, what's up, man? Daniel, great to see you too. Cool. Nobody's having any panic attacks. I know this is very unconventional. This is totally different than the idea of, let's say, like harmonizing a melody note. Right? I'm not looking at the melody and reharmonizing it. I'm thinking about the form. I'm thinking about the tonal centers that the form's moving through. I'm thinking about the sections within the form, and I'm thinking about how chords want to move. In this case, I'm being very strict with myself, and I'm only using dominant movement. we're not talking about the other types of movement that are presented in Chords for Life, which dominant, diminished, chromatic, diatonic. Okay, these four types of movement, chord movement, are all super important, but right now we're just looking at dominant, which you can hear is enough to create some really interesting ideas. Even though we tend to think of dominant movement as like, oh, it's just 5-1, you know, it gets like one page in a music theory book and then that's it, but we could literally sit for a lifetime and just explore dominant movement. Listen to like any monk and you'll hear just completely genius, brilliant mastery of the way dominant chords want to move. That dude heard dominance. You could almost take this harmonic etude, if you will, and try and write a monk style melody to it, and it could be a contrafact of Autumn Leaves, even though the chord progression is clearly not Autumn Leaves. You see where I'm going with this? We're just destroying any semblance of this is a little dangerous. Okay, this, if you want my personal opinion, my sort of artistic aesthetic, this should not be done for the sake of legitimately destroying it. Like, we're not trying to be punks about this. We could be. I mean, I guess there's nothing innately wrong about it, but to me, even though I'm destroying this, I'm coming from a place of complete love and respect and admiration and appreciation for this tune. Right? Like, I'm not destroying it because I don't like it. I'm destroying it because I love it and I want to create something new with it. Like, I want to think about how can I take this apart and rebuild it and put it back together in more 2021 ways, more Jordan ways, more unique ways, like more spontaneous ways. A cool chromatic descending line like this is going to be difficult for me to let go of. I could get addicted to a movement like that, and maybe I will write a melody around it and have an Autumn Leaves contrafact that nobody would be able to tell is Autumn Leaves. But the goal here really is not necessarily to find, I guess it could be, I was going to say the goal is not to find a new arrangement, like one new idea, but more so just to start thinking outside the box. Okay, because if you comp like this, if somebody calls Autumn Leaves at a gig and you comp like this chorus after chorus, soloist after soloist, and play that same descending pattern, you might annoy some people, but if you learn how to think outside the real book changes and start seeing harmonic possibilities, different pathways, and how you can get where you want to go, then you can start using it in the right moments. You know, you're not going to put cayenne pepper in every dish of dinner. You're not going to put it in the main course and the appetizer and the salad and the water. Like, you put it where it's meant to be put so that it brings that certain food, it makes it pop, and then there are other, flavors that kind of help balance it out. it's trying to mix and match some of the more classic changes with some pockets of swerving harmonic lines. Does that make sense? Miguel, what's up, man? Great to see you. Yeah. Let's add some 2 chords to some of these. I don't know, it might be a little bit too chaotic. It's worth trying it just to see. It might be a little too chaotic to add 2 chords before every one of these dominants. Instead of... That's a lot. In the right context, it might be exactly what you want. So it's worth being aware that that's there. But what about... okay, that's... I'm adding the 2 to every other chord. So D flat, G flat, resolving to F. Right, D flat, G flat, F, B, E, E flat, A, D, D flat, C. That time I didn't do it until the very end. I did it right before the C. So there's a 2-5, the tritone 2-5, A flat minor, D flat 7, C. Let's see where I'm at. Right? Or maybe we want to re-simplify this a little bit again, get rid of some of that, all that additional movement, and get it to something a little bit closer to the actual tune. Right, I'm skipping over A minor and I'm just 2-5ing to the D7. Tritone sub 2-5ing, so B flat minor, E flat 7 to D minor. B flat minor, E flat 7, D, A flat minor, D flat 7, C. Again, all I'm doing is I'm ignoring the A minor, and I'm thinking about targeting measure 2, which is D7. And then I'm ignoring G major, and I'm targeting measure 4, which is C major, with the tritone 2-5. F-sharp half diminished to B7 to E minor, but I'm skipping the F-sharp and I'm doing the tritone sub 2-5 to C to B7, which is G minor, C7 to B7. Hitting a chord a half step away from what you would expect me to be hitting. Now, if you're playing solo guitar, have at it. Like, you can do anything at any moment, and as long as you're thinking about the melody and the form and being as respectful to that melody and that form as you feel you need to be in that moment, you're golden. Like, all of this will work. When you're actually comping for a soloist, you know, it's a little bit of a dance. It's a little bit of a give and a take. If you're playing G minor and they're improvising over F sharp half diminished, there are going to be clashes. There are going to be bumps in the road. But that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, right? Bumps in the road. I mean, people literally, like, they go four-wheeling. They go driving around in mountains because they want bumps in the road. So some people are going to be okay with that. Some people are going to love it, and they're going to call you to count for them at every gig they ever play again because it's the most exciting soloing experience they ever have. Some people are going to hate it. So you have to know your soloist and who you're accompanying. Be very careful, like with singers. This is not necessarily the best thing to do with singers unless it's in between their phrases, which is very often where we can really get away with the most, whether it's a singer or a horn player or whoever. They're playing a phrase, they drop out, you can all of a sudden come in and create all this interesting harmonic movement that nobody's quite expecting, but then it carries us back in. You can target that chord for the next measure or the next section and set things up in a really intriguing way that will inspire them to think outside the box and could create a very interesting conversation. So it's just something important to keep your ears open when you're doing this and to really be thinking about the context of the situation. Again, solo guitar, trio guitar playing, like if you're being backed by a bass player and drummer, you can kind of get away with anything if the bass player is good and knows how to navigate the changes and hold on to them without you spoon feeding the changes. And it's kind of the same thing with the soloist. If they know how to play without needing to hear the changes, it's going to create some imbalance and some friction, but there's always going to be those pockets of resolution where everything kind of comes back together and everyone in the group and hopefully the audience understands that, like, this is not us playing badly, this is us having fun, trying, moving in different directions and then coming back together at key moments, which can be really exciting. But do be careful with it. Don't overdo it. Don't piss people off. Don't lose gigs because of it. If nothing else, just treat it in your practice time as a means to explore harmony and form and harmonic freedom. So you can start moving around not by superimposing chords or substituting chords, but by thinking about where am I headed and how can I get there, and pick one type of movement to get there, right? Don't take the car to the bus stop where you take the bus to the train station, get off, hop on the train. Like, that's silly. Pick one type of transportation. You're either going to walk, you're going to drive, you're going to take the bus, or you're going to take the train. Pick one, dominant, diminished, chromatic, diatonic, and just explore the city with that one type of transportation, right? You're a tourist in this town and you bought your all-day pass. Now just sit all day and explore the city with it. You can hop on and off buses at any time. You can check out any neighborhood you want. You can almost get away with anything. You can play, you can see, like, I played basically every dominant chord that exists inside the context of Autumn Leaves, but it only works because I'm giving it a function, a purpose. I shouldn't put it that way. I'm not giving it anything. Dominant chords have a function and a purpose, with or without me. I'm serving the purpose of what dominant chords naturally want when I think and play this way, which is why we have to practice it. I think I'm going to leave it there. I think we destroyed Autumn Leaves pretty well. Let's see if there's any questions in the comments here. Daniel, great approach for soloing. Yeah, we can actually solo with all this stuff. I don't think it's the best starting point for soloing, but we could outline a lot of these changes. This is what I was saying about that could write a melody following those chords, and you would have like a monk style, if you use this particular progression, almost like a monk style contrafact of Autumn Leaves that, unless you pointed it out to someone, most people would not recognize that it was Autumn Leaves, because we've destroyed it. Like, it's that different, even though it's still the tune. So yes, totally to that. Tomas, I don't know how you actually pronounce your first name. Tomas, the Z I'm not sure about. Apologies. Can you tell something about targeting? Yeah. I don't know how recently you joined in on this class, but go back and rewatch this lesson. The entire thing is about targeting. Where do I want to go, and how do I want to get there? There are different ways to approach a place, right? We pick the place we want to go. We want to go home. We want to go to a coffee shop. We want to go to the office. We want to go to the airport. Where do we want to go, and how are we going to get there? Today's lesson was all about dominant chord movement. So we're targeting chords with dominant chords. This works with harmony and with melody. Single notes, we can target single notes. Harmony, chords, we can target chords. This whole lesson was about dominant movement. So just rewatch it once I post it, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas. Daniel, that playing reminds you of Bill Evans. Any particular recording? Let me know. I want to go listen. Are you talking about his Autumn Leaves rendition? I'll have to go back and listen. Killer. If anybody has any comments, questions, leave them in the comments. Or if you have comments, leave them in the comments. Tomorrow we're going to do Friday's our Advanced Melodic Triad Concepts Day. So we will jump into something fun. I'm not sure what it'll be quite yet, but I'll think of something. I'll try and maybe stick with the major triad tension 2 is what we've been working on all week, except for today, because today is all about how chords are moving. So I'll try and think of something advanced and fun we can do with major triad tension 2. And I will see you there. Until then, happy practicing. Hey YouTube, it's Jordan Clemens with NYC Jazz Guitar Master Classes and the Melodic Triad Study Group. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I have a ton of content coming out on YouTube this year. We've been doing daily jazz guitar lessons, so I'm going to be posting videos like this pretty much every day. So if you dug this and you want to follow me, subscribe and make sure that you turn on notifications so that you can watch more videos like this. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the comment section. Hope to see you in the next video.